If you follow the channel, then you know I got a buddy that owns all the Shop and Save stores in the state, and there's a whole bunch of stores, and they're in plazas like this where they're shopping plazas. Where he'll own these buildings and rent them out. Deals with it somehow. Take a look at a little structural issue we got. Corrosion issue here. Gonna get some steel and fix this, and we need to reinforce the bottom of all of these, and we're gonna want to weld something on there that's connected to that concrete to provide new bearing. You know, if that piece of steel that's down in there has rotted away, then we've lost bearing. So in order to get that bearing surface again, we'll have to go to the surface of the concrete, pretty much putting on a flange. You know, we're gonna have to weld. It looks to me like I'm probably gonna end up using angle iron. I'm gonna talk to my steel supplier and see if angle iron, or they could make me a plate in the brake, a bent plate, because these posts are 4x4 square. So if you were going to take two pieces of angle iron and box them, you'd need a 4.5 by 4.5 by half. With a bent plate, you could probably go down to 3/8, but then you got the labor added, a little less steel, but you'd have added labor in bending the plate. Somebody'd have to put it in the brake. Here's one that somebody else tried to fix, and this just didn't work. The screws that were in it are broken off in behind there, or rotted off. They're trying to do this. The ones that I've seen where they tried to repair it, they tried to repair it without welding on site, and that's just not a good option. They tried to put screws into the posts, and we're going to get some material, and we'll get the material, we'll get back here, and we're going to get this issue fixed. There's 14 of these posts, and another thing that I see about it is if I go knocking on them, some of them, when it gets a little bit weaker, some of them is sunk a little bit already, and I don't, my buddy that owns this place, he said he didn't necessarily want to jack anything up. He just wanted to stop it from going down. There's a couple that I could see that would benefit if I could jack them up. So that's one thing to maybe consider. But another thing to consider is that if you look at this one right here, this is a good example of what I'm getting ready to talk about. Believe it or not, that rust that's there is holding something, you know, and it needs removed. So when you take a big hammer and you start beating on that, and you beat all that rust off there, that's going to weaken that considerably, and the rust has to be beaten off there to fix the issue, to get new metal on it. So what I'm thinking of doing is something like, I'm thinking of getting something pretty stiff, a beam that I would temporarily weld on here, across here, and put a jack stand here and a jack stand here. My welding jack stands with the V heads, you know, they're rated for 2,000. I've got some that are rated for 2,500. So two of those would lift 5,000 pounds. So you could use that as an option to hold these up while you're working on them, and you might use the V-head. There's two of them here that have sunk down about an inch, it looks like, and you could use that as an option maybe the V-head would let you raise it up. You might not raise it up the whole inch, but if you raised it up half the distance that it went down, you'd be helping the situation. But I'm going to get with the steel supplier and see what's the best solution for material to fix this, and we'll get the material and we'll get her fixed. Ain't no big deal, just work. Back at the shop, there've been some do's and done. I want to get you caught up on what's going down. We was in Kingwood with the super service truck. Like you just seen, we was in Kingwood. We measured the job, called through the Bluetooth action in the super service truck and had a discussion with a steel supplier. Talked to a couple suppliers about that 4.5 by 4.5 by half angle iron I was wanting. The mills ain't running that. There's 4 by 4 by half, there's 5 by 5 by half. So that's not really going to work out. I checked on possibly getting a bent plate, taking a piece of 3/8 and making an angle that's 4 by 4 ID. If I wanted to do that, I couldn't get it till next week, and I didn't like that option. I wanted to go ahead and get things rolling. Then, since I was in Kingwood, I was actually on the other side of Fairmont from the shop, and there's a supplier in Fairmont that had flat bar. Flat bar that I could put together to use. Now, using flat bar is going to put 2 more welds per post. Not a big deal. There's some things about using the flat bar that I like, especially because the sidewalks there, some are level, some are angled, some are, shaped funny. The more pieces that different pieces that I have to weld together on site, the more adjustment I have. These things don't have to line up perfect. They just need to line up good enough that I can weld them and be able to have these flat bars setting down on the concrete where I got as much bearing surface as possible. So we came back a different route coming through Fairmont, West Virginia, and stopped at a steel supplier there and put the flat bar on the overhead rack on the super service truck, got her up on I-79, spun that 6.2 up to about 4,000 RPMs and brought her on back home. This is what we got going on now. Whole bunch of flat bar, got her all cut up, got a simulation. This is a super simulator right here, because see, this is one of the this is a scrap piece of 4 by 4 by 3/8, and this is what them columns on site are made out of. So this is our fix, and what we got here, we've got 2 flat bars that are a 3/8 by 4. And these 3/8 by 4 are cut 8 inches long. Then I got some 3/8 by 8 flat bar, and I cut those 4 3/4. And that's giving us a nice fit out here, where we got everything boxed. So then I got some, the other I got is 3/8 by 2 flat bar for our lower flange, and I've got a bunch of them cut 5 inches and a bunch of them cut 9 inches. So this is what our fix is going to look like. This is going to reinforce all of the corrosion damage and then give us a lower flange. So the next doozy on this right here is every one of these, I'm going to have these holes drilled. Even this. We want the holes drilled. And if I'm going to have a hole here and a hole here and a hole here and a hole here, that's 8 holes per post. 14 posts, 112 holes, I think. So if you got to drill that many holes, you need a jig. So I made one. You want to see the jig, don't you? You're dying to see the jig, ain't you? Show me the jig, see me, show it, I want to see it. All right. This time I'm going to put the holes in them. Got the drill press set up. I made this jig, and we're gonna drill. I've already drilled 2 of these, and this right here worked great. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to drill another 110 holes real fast. So I'll say that thing I used to say a lot when I'm drinking. Back when I was drinking, I'd say, "Hey y'all, watch this." So that doosan right there got all the 5-inch long pieces drilled. Got 5/16 holes. Gonna be putting 1/4-inch tap cones in there. And the tap cones really don't have to do much. They're just gonna be in there till we can get that welded. And the good thing about the jig is that it's gonna work the same on the 9-inch pieces as it does the 5-inch pieces. So let's drill them. Drilling's done. We're good on that. Next thing I'm thinking on is setting up some kind of a beam that I can temporarily tack to those columns and put 2 jack stands under it, like kind of like I got super simulated right here on my super simulator. This is longer than it needs to be. So there's going to have to be a Judy chop right there on that. And then what I'm going to probably do is put some metal that goes and make like a bit of a truss out of this. And once we get some truss action, the truss action will cause a reduction in bendification. So that'd be good. So we get that doosan done. We got a truss. This is what it looked like. Be a jack stand right there, jack stand right there. Imagine this is our column. I welded a clamp to it. Got me a handle, hang on to right here. And the place that you would weld this would be the underside of that. And the reason you would weld it down there is because then when you were done, you could loosen that clamp and just pull the top hinge on that weld and snap it right off there. That would save you from cutting it. Then you just hit it with a grinder and go on. I'll show you how it works. One tack right here. About 1 inch of weld probably do it right there. Use your jack stands to hold your column in place while you do your work. Loosen up the clamp. Snap it off there. Yeah, like that. Back here on the scene at the shopping plaza where we got to fix these columns, And the reason I'm standing where I am is I think this is a good place to take a look at this one column. It'd be the third column in this row. That's one of the ones that's actually, the corrosion has allowed it to sink down. So if you look at that red, the red steel trim, see how that trim looks bent? It's like you see the first column, then you see the second column. And between the second column and the third column, that red trim looks like it's running downhill towards us. Well, it is. It's sunk that much. And considering that that post is undoubtedly the worst one here, I think that's where I'm going to start. Knowing that that has gone down, that tells me that post isn't holding nothing. And if it's not holding nothing, we need to make it hold something. And the question that I could answer real quick here is, you know, can I put my device, my beam on here, tack it on, set up the jack stands, and help this situation any without doing any damage? You know, can I jack it up? Can I raise it up? Now, my buddy that owns the place, he said I didn't necessarily have to jack these up if I could stop them from going down anymore. But if I can improve the situation without doing any damage, I certainly will. And I can see from looking at the metal here, you just look at how the light's hitting that metal. See how the bottom center, this part right here, that is hooved out. The fact that this is falling down right here is buckling all that trim. It should be flat like that. Everywhere that it's puckered like that, you know, I believe, just see how the light's hitting it. You know, it wasn't, I don't think, there's no way it was put on there like that. It's doing that because this has gone down. Just a quick start and look. I'm going to put some more clothes on. It's going to warm up today, but it's not exactly warm right now. It's pretty early, just light. We'll put some more clothes on. We'll get set up and get going on this. Boy, you want to talk about a result? We got one here. Look how straight that is. Crazy thing. I would have thought that I might raise that up an inch. Final measurement, I jacked that up 2 3/8 of an inch to get that. Look at this. All this metal fits great now. That's how it was when they put it on there. So this is what our bases are gonna look like. This one's all welded up, and I'm gonna get rolling on the rest of it. See how many more I can get done today. One thing I certainly realized doing this, I don't know if you noticed from the video, but several times I needed a blower. And I have a Makita blower at the shop that I use a lot. Cordless blower, leaf blower. I didn't bring it with me, and that's happened a bunch of times where I'd put that thing in the truck and I'd take it somewhere, and then I'd get back to the shop and I'd take it out of the truck, and I didn't think to bring it today, but I was using my oxygen several times where I had dust when I was hammer drilling holes and this rust. I needed a blower. So I just went to this Tractor Supply right here and bought one. They had this DeWalt. That's the only blower they had in there, and it was good. I do have a lot of DeWalt stuff, and I already had the batteries. The only thing that was bad is this was sold with a battery and a charger. So I paid more than I really had to because I could have probably done without the battery. Not anything wrong with getting another battery, but I just probably spent a little more than I would have had to because I've got several DeWalt batteries. But I got another nice 5 amp hour battery, and I'm probably going to have to pick one of the 2 blowers and leave in the truck so that it doesn't come out. I don't know which one it'll be that'll end up in the truck all the time, but blower's a handy tool. So I got 2 of them cordless blowers now, one a Makita and one a DeWalt. So get rolling on the rest of this and see how much I can get done today. Look at that sky up there. Turned out to be a beautiful day. Undoubtedly the 4 that I did here first, probably the 4 worst. There's still some bad ones. Using those Tapcons, each one's got 8 Tapcons. I don't think that's a big deal either way. Whether the Tapcons were there or not there is not going to make a bit of difference in holding up anything. I think if I was going to anchor them however I wanted to, I'd probably do like I've done before, where I'd just take a round bar, 3/8 inch or 1/2 inch round bar, drill a hole, drive the round bar down in there, and weld the round bar to the piece. You know, that's something I do a lot in concrete. That the owner of this mentioned Tapcons, and when he said put Tapcons in there, that's cool. I mean, that's fine with me. So that's what we're doing. But like I say, no matter how you pinned it or Tapconed it, I don't think that's doing anything anyway. what's what's doing the fix right here is just that base as a whole. Putting the bearing of the load on that flange that's on the concrete, where there used to be a tube in there that was in the concrete holding it up, and where that tube's rotted off now, the load bearing is sitting on this concrete out here. But so it looks like say I did the 4 worst today, it's a good chance I could do 5 in another day and 5 in another day after that. So 2 more days I should be done if I don't run into any trouble. We'll see, but I'm gonna head out for today. We're back. Day 2 on fixing these columns. It's chilly this morning, but it's a nice day. I got 4 of them done yesterday. That would make a 10-hour day. Of course, there's a little over 3 hours of driving to this job, so that's to be considered also. And if you're wondering about what it's like with a welding service when you're driving, let me tell you, this will surprise some people, but driving costs you more than welding. You can't drive to a job without charging. You'll go broke. If you figure the cost of diesel fuel or gasoline, whatever your truck burns on a service truck, and your insurance and tires and brakes, there's no way you would ever burn enough welding rods on site to cost as much money as it costs to drive a truck down the road per hour. So the way I operate and the way I always have, to be able to make it, my time of a day runs from the time that service truck pulls out of the shop until the time that truck's back in the shop. You're leasing or renting me and the truck, and it's by the hour. But anyways, we're back here on day 2. I got 4 of them done yesterday, and that gave me an idea of what I was going to try to do. I had no idea how long this was going to take, but there's 14 of these that need fixed. And obviously on any job, you should, unless you run into unexpected problems, you should be able to speed up as you go and learn. But the gauge that I was going by, that I was thinking of yesterday when I left, was if I did 4 of them on the first day, I should be able to do at least 5 every day. And one of the things I was thinking when I left was I could definitely get 5 of them done every day, because the first 4 that I worked on, I think I picked the worst ones. I'm not sure that's the case now. I did probably work on some the worst ones, but I'm noticing as I got here this morning, there was some trash cans I had to move out of the way that was in front of these poles. There was some cigarette and beer advertisements that were connected to the poles. And when I got all that stuff out of the way, I'm realizing that the ones I'm going to do today are just as bad as the others. So I'm still going to go for 5 today. I think I can get 5 of them done, but they're bad. So let's take a look real quick. You know, when they look like that, if you start beating that with a hammer, there's just not going to be anything left. And that's what I saw on those ones I fixed down there yesterday. There's nothing but rust holding that together. And if you don't know, this is interesting actually. I'm trying to get a piece of it. That used to be steel. And what this has turned into right here, this is actually iron ore. And it's interesting what steel does. This was mined as iron ore and then turned into steel through the process they use to make steel. And when it corrodes like this, what it's doing is just reverting back into iron ore. It has no strength anymore. It's almost like a shell. You know, when you snap a piece off. And that's what steel does. You know, when it corrodes to the point that it's lost all of its properties of steel, it reverts back to iron ore. The way this bubbles out, look how far that bubbled out away from there. Like it expands, you know. There's one up here we'll take a look at real quick that's been worked on. Look at that mess of iron ore. Anywhooser, we'll take a look back after a bit. I want to get some work done. Nothing major exciting to report on this second day here. I said I was going to get 5 of them. I did 6. Show you what's going on. You know, I started down there yesterday and I was coming up through this way. There's been a lot of people parking like that in front of that Smoker Friendly. And I got to the point where they were kind of in my way coming up through here. But then I realized there was one more all by itself out over there that needed done. And I went ahead and did that one. There wasn't anybody over there in the way, and I went over there and did that one. So, since I've done 6 today, there's 4 left. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to plan on those 4 getting knocked out tomorrow. Everything as far as the ones I did today went pretty good. I tell you what, it's a good thing. It's a good thing the way I've got this many individual pieces for this. If you look at that one right there, you know how, of course, the column's plumb, the concrete's on an angle, all of my cuts are 90 degrees, but since I had 4 pieces wrapping around the post and 4 pieces wrapping around as the flange from the post to the concrete, that many individual pieces gives me a lot of adjustment. You know, when you got individual pieces, it's like you fudge this one a little, you fudge that one a little, and when you're just fudging a tiny bit, you don't notice it as looking bad. I mean, they all look good. It's amazing that these are all fitting so good, considering that I don't have any parts cut on an angle or anything. These are just square cut parts. You know, you'd think you'd have to fit them, but the fact that, you know, you got this many individual parts and you can shift them around till they fit good, it's working out. And on the welding on these, what I got here, where I welded this bar to this bar, all these verticals, that's a 532 5P plus pipe rod run downhill. And all I'm doing with that weld right there is sealing them up. You know, structurally, I don't feel like that weld's doing much. It's just making a box. You'd never rip that apart. And these welds, it takes my flat bars and turns them into a flange. These welds right here, that's an 1/8 inch 7018. And I run the 532 5P plus and the 1/8 inch 7018 on 130 amps on that Miller Trailblazer 302. The important part about this weld right here is starting here and welding that direction. You would not want to start at the column and come back. That would be bad. Everywhere you have a start, you're going to have a thicker spot and everywhere you have a stop, you're going to have that crater left where your cracking can start. We want to make sure that we don't have out here at the edge, we want a thick, heavy start where cracking can't start. You know, you can only weld so close to the concrete. So when you're welding this right here, I mean, you can only get so close to that concrete. If you get too close, this concrete will actually pop and bust, and you'll damage it. But by starting here and going that way, you get a nice heavy start there at the start, and you won't have that cracking, especially with a 7018, because 7018 really resists cracking. Now, welding all the way around the tube at the top and the flange to the steel right here, that's a 532 7024, the jet rod, and I run that at 180 amps. And the way that ends up being, I usually start from the back side, and with one rod I can go across here, across there, and across there, 3 sides without stopping. I take a second rod, start right here, come across there, and across there without stopping. Then I'll come around the other side, and with one rod I'll put half a rod here and half a rod there, and you're done. About all that welding right there needs is sealed up. You're dealing with 3/8 inch stuff, and I have people ask sometimes, they say, well, how do you know how much weld to put on there? In a situation with a fillet weld like that, if you want a rule to go by, if you're dealing with 3/8 and you're welding all the way around it, run a 3/16 fillet weld and you're fine. But weld all the way around it. This right here would hold together if you put some tacks on it. But we're not going to do that. We're sealing this up. And it needs sealed up for corrosion protection as well. So all of those down through that row, we got them. We got 2 up through this row, and there's the 4 more up through there we'll do tomorrow. Nothing else really to report today. Gonna hit the road. Gonna do that one first. Beautiful third day here. So yesterday that one on the end, we got it knocked out, and that means that the 4 that we need to do are the 4 that are in the row right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Third day on this, pretty set up with a procedure, pretty much know what's going on, what we're doing. It's sort of at the point in the job where there's nothing to it but to do it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get on it and get it done and look cool while we're doing it. That's important. Got to look cool. If you're watching me do this and you're thinking, man, he looks cool doing that, you know, that's normal. So, you know, don't worry about it. But yeah, let's get on it. That'll work. Just in the nick of time. We got wet weather. Just got done before it started doing that. Let's take a look. 14 of them all together. Couple things happened during doing this. Surprised what a handy tool a blower is. You know, I have a blower at the shop. It's a Makita, and I use it a lot. I've had it in the truck, but then I end up taking it out of the truck to use it at the shop, and it didn't get put back in the truck. And I showed up here and I needed a blower. I very seldom blow leaves, but those blowers, man, you can use them for so much stuff. I blow the dirt around in the shop, blow the dust. In this case, there was dust from drilling the holes in the concrete, and there was also, look, we're getting hail. Holy hail, we're getting hail. There's also the rust. You know, it was a handy way, a lot better than sweeping, to blow that rust. And Wally here, the guy that manages everything here, kind of is going to take care of the painting on this. He's got one of them done, so that's what they're going to look like right there. That looks great. I really like it. I like seeing that one painted before we get out of here. We definitely got done just in time. He's obviously not going to be doing any more painting today. But this was a good little job, and it definitely needed done, and I think that the fix that we came up with is a good fix. It's going to, you know, it's going to make it last and not going to have any problem with it for a long time. So thank y'all for watching. Remember, learn how to work with what you got. That way you always have everything you need. Hey y'all, we're coming to you from the break room here at MBS Welding. I want to show you the t-shirts we got. The MBS Welding t-shirts got MBS Welding on the front, American flag on the sleeve, great big MBS Welding here on the back. Helps the channel if you buy a t-shirt. If you're interested in a t-shirt, send Tina an email request, nbswelding@aol.com. Thank you.